1, 2, 3, 3.
If you grew up anywhere between the disco ball days of the 70s and the neon-soaked 90s, you already know. Snack time wasn't just snack time, it was a full-blown event. Whether you were flipping through a comic book, waiting for cartoons to come on, or stuffing your face after a bike ride with the neighborhood crew, these iconic treats were always within reach. Even if your mom said, no sugar before dinner, somehow these still made it into your lunchbox, your backpack, or your secret stash in your sock drawer. Pop Rocks, the candy that felt like a science experiment. If you were a kid in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, chances are you heard the legend, if you eat Pop Rocks and drink soda, your stomach will explode. Was it true? No. Did it stop us? Also no. You'd tear open the foil packet, pour the tiny, colorful crystals into your mouth, and then wait. The moment they hit your tongue, pop, snap, crackle, pure electric joy, you'd walk around with your mouth open, daring your friends to listen to the mini fireworks going off inside. It wasn't just candy, it was a full-on event. And somehow, even though they mostly tasted like generic cherry or watermelon, we couldn't get enough. For a moment in time, Pop Rocks made you feel like a walking science fair. And honestly, that's a pretty magical thing. Dunkaroos, just saying the word Dunkaroos gives most 90s kids an instant sugar craving. This was the snack that turned us all into tiny dessert chefs. Open the plastic tray and you'd find little kangaroo-shaped cookies on one side and a glorious blob of sweet frosting on the other, usually vanilla or chocolate, sometimes with rainbow sprinkles if you were really lucky. The goal was to dip each cookie perfectly, but we all know how it really went. A couple generous dunks, then panic when you realized you were almost out of frosting with 4 cookies to go. Rookie mistake. The veterans knew to hoard the icing and go full spoon mode by the end. Dunkaroos weren't just good, they were a flex. If you pulled these out at lunch, you were basically snack royalty. Tang. Before there was Gatorade or energy drinks, there was Tang, the orange powder that NASA made cool. Marketed as the drink of astronauts, it felt like the closest thing to drinking something from outer space, and that was a big deal back then. You'd open the big plastic-lidded container, scoop out the powder, probably way more than the serving size, and stir it into water until it turned into a neon orange potion. It didn't really taste like orange juice, but who cared? It was Tang. Tang had this kind of citrusy, vitamin-y zing that made it taste almost like you were being healthy, even though you definitely weren't. Moms liked it because it had vitamin C. We liked it because it was basically orange Kool-Aid that made us feel like astronauts. Win-win. Ring Pops. Forget plastic jewelry. This was the bling we really wanted. Ring Pops were loud, proud, and delicious. You slipped that oversized candy gem onto your finger like a sugary crown jewel and instantly felt cooler. Cherry, blue raspberry, watermelon, whatever the flavor. The point was to savor it slowly, even though most of us ended up chomping it in 5 minutes. They were kind of sticky, totally impractical, and impossible to store once you started eating it, but that was part of the charm. A ring pop was a statement. You weren't just eating candy, you were wearing it. Proposals were made, friendships were sealed, playground status was earned. There was just something magical about being able to eat a ring. Pure childhood power move. Fruit roll-ups. Fruit roll-ups were like the edible version of a toy, brightly colored, wildly flavored, and always a little mysterious. You never quite knew if yours would come with the peel-out shapes or those tongue tattoos, but either way, you were in for a sticky good time. Unrolling one took some patience. It would cling to the plastic like it knew how badly you wanted it. But once you got it loose, it was game on. Some kids rolled it up and bit off chunks, some folded it, and some just went full hands-on and stuck the whole thing to their tongue. If you got one in your lunchbox, you knew it was a good day. Was there any fruit in a fruit roll-up? Probably not, but as kids, we truly believed we were eating something semi-nutritious. And to be fair, it was technically sold in the fruit snacks aisle. So that counts, right? Hostess Ho-Hos, the chocolatey, swirly treat of champions. Ho-Hos were like little Swiss rolls of joy, soft chocolate cake rolled around sweet, creamy filling, all wrapped in a glossy chocolate coating. If you were lucky enough to find these in your lunchbox, you probably tried to savor them, and failed miserably after the first bite. There was something about peeling back that thin foil wrapper that made it feel like you were opening a treasure. Some of us would unroll them slowly to eat the cream filling like a dessert archaeologist. Others would bite right in, no hesitation, like the snack-time beasts we were. Either way, there was no wrong way to eat a ho-ho, unless, of course, you tried to share. Which, let's be honest, rarely happened. Back when after-school snacks meant parking yourself in front of DuckTales or Reading Rainbow, ho-hos were the perfect sweet reward for making it through the school day alive. Fun Dip, the name says it all. Fun Dip wasn't just candy, it was interactive. It came in that iconic pouch separated into sections, one for the sugar stick, aka the Leica sticks, and the others filled with brightly colored powder that somehow qualified as flavor. Cherry, grape, blue raspberry, each one tangy, sweet, and unapologetically artificial. The process was simple but sacred. Lick the stick, dip it into the powder, lick again. Rinse and repeat until the stick turned soft and soggy, or you got impatient and started pouring the powder straight into your mouth like a tiny sugar fiend. Fun Dip made a mess. It stained your tongue. It got all over your desk. But none of that mattered. The experience of dipping, tasting, and licking that chalky stick until it disintegrated in your mouth was one of childhood's greatest simple pleasures. Planters' cheese balls. Before there were Flamin' Hot Cheetos and all these fancy flavor-blasted snacks, we had these glorious neon orange orbs of cheesy wonder. Planters' cheese balls were housed in that legendary blue canister with the plastic lid that never quite stayed on. Once opened, the whole room smelled like artificial cheese in the best possible way. These little puffs were dangerously addictive crunchy at first, then they melted in your mouth into a salty, cheesy cloud. The orange powder stuck to your fingers with pride, and by the time you finished a can, and you always finished the can, your fingertips looked like they'd been dipped in radioactive cheddar. You could pop them one at a time or go full savage and shove a handful in your mouth. No judgment, just pure joy in puffed form. Push Pops. Push Pops were part candy, part gadget. You popped off the top, pushed up the brightly colored lollipop with your thumb, and walked around like you were holding a candy joystick. If Ring Pops were about flair, Push Pops were about control. You were literally in charge of your own candy consumption, one push at a time. These things lasted forever unless you lost the cap or dropped it on the carpet, R.I.P. to every dusty, dog-hair-covered push pop that met an early end. And once you finished one, you'd inevitably try to reuse the plastic casing for something usually unsuccessfully. But hey, we were creative. It was portable, it was fun, and it made you feel like a sugar-powered cyborg. What more could a kid want? Capri Sun, the drink that taught a generation how to stab something with precision. Capri Sun came in that silver, spaceship-like pouch that looked cooler than any other drink on the shelf. But getting the straw in? That was a challenge. If you got it on the first try, you were basically a hero. If you poked it through the back, you drank it anyway, like a savage. Flavors like Pacific Cooler, Fruit Punch, and Wild Cherry were the go-tos, and they were ice-cold perfection on a summer day. Capri Sun was basically liquid gold at sports games, pool parties, and lunchtime trades. And let's not forget the satisfying slurp at the end when the pouch was totally flat. It was the drink equivalent of rolling up a bag of chips to get the crumbs only cooler and slightly more aerodynamic. These snacks weren't just about the flavor, they were about the moments. The friendships, the after-school TV shows, the long summer days with nothing to do but eat candy and be a kid. And hey, if this trip down memory lane made you smile, there's plenty more where that came from. Hit that subscribe button, give this a like, and drop a comment with the snacks you remember loving. Did we miss your favorite? Let us know.